Greetings, class, and welcome to Nursing 720. I wanted to take just a little bit of time to help you navigate through the Brightspace course. I understand that many of you are familiar with Brightspace, but there are a few resources that I wanted to highlight for you. Now, within the box titled Orientation and Important Resources, one document that you will want to take another glance at is the course syllabus. We did have an opportunity to look at this at immersion, but do take some time again to review the course description as well as the aggregate outcomes. Recall that the aggregate outcomes are the program outcomes, whereas the student learning outcomes are those outcomes relative to the course. Please do take some time to review again the McKendree University mission statement, as well as the student expectations, the academic honesty, and the ADA policy. Just as a reminder, and I know we discussed the evaluation methods at immersion, but for this course, you will be required to complete CITI training. CITI training is required for IRB. To earn a small number of points within this course, you will submit your completed certificate within Brightspace. Now remember, you are able to take credit, some practicum hour credit for completion of City Street training. You are also required to submit verification of health and safety requirements, as well as a signature from the handbook that states you have read the handbook. There are a total of 6 statistics quizzes embedded in the course, as well as a total of 8 discussion forums. As was discussed at immersion, the product at the end of this course will be a rough draft of Chapter 1. In order for you to successfully reach that goal, we have found that it is wise to have you create Chapter 1 in small parts. So we're going to break down Chapter 1 for you. First, we're going to ask that you submit your PICO question, and so you'll earn a smaller number of points there. Next, you'll submit your background and significance. Now, with each of these submissions, you will receive feedback. You'll respond to that feedback and then embed it into Chapter 1. So we have our PICO question. We have our background and significance that we've completed and turned in. Next, you'll be required to submit a literature review matrix. And then following the literature review matrix by 1 or 2 weeks, you'll be asked to complete an evidence-based review of the literature. At the end, you will combine those elements to form Chapter 1. Remember that you're receiving feedback on each of these elements, so you want to address the feedback received and integrate it into Chapter 1 prior to its submission. We certainly will talk about the different components of Chapter 1 in more detail as we progress in the course. With regards to the grading scale, please let me know if you have any questions. And we did discuss the required textbook at immersion. Now, I understand I did send everyone a copy of the course syllabus, but I did want to pull it up for us just to highlight a couple of things for you. When we look at the course calendar, the course is set up with modules, and many modules, or the majority of modules, are 1 week. However, there are a couple of modules that will run over 2 weeks. With each module, you'll have a listing of the required readings, the relative assignments for that week, as well as whether or not there is a discussion board. Now, I want to take this time to let you know that most typically, discussion will run from 12:01 a.m. on Sunday through 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. Of course, this first week, we don't start classes until Monday, so we're going to lose 1 day. But that's okay. We'll be fine. So you can see when looking at this calendar that we do not have a discussion this first week, but I am asking you to dive into the readings and to work on the DNP question development worksheet. At the same time, While we don't have a graded discussion this week, I will have a discussion forum available for you to ask questions, and I encourage you to do so if you're interested. So each of the modules is set up in this way with required readings, assignments, and whether or not there's a discussion. The calendar will also indicate the due dates for all assignments, and you can see those listed there, and oftentimes they are bolded. Go ahead and move back to the course homepage. And when we move back to the Orientation and Important Resources tab, we'll give it a minute to show up here. Here we go. You will find a number of resources within this box. And so I want to show you over on the left-hand side. Resources available within this box include APA, Holman Library, and the Writing Center. When we look down, there are a number of resources available to you within this box relative to APA, including a link to the APA manual and website. There's a quick reference guide, an APA Common Reference Examples guide, the PowerPoint that we discussed within Immersion, as well as a sample APA paper. I have also provided a link to Purdue OWL, which is often useful if you have questions relative to APA. Another tab here includes a link to the Holman Library, as well as 2 short tutorials that are available for 2 different databases at McKendree here. I have also provided a link to the Writing Center, and I do encourage you to submit papers as you're able to the Writing Center for review. Please note that those appointments must be made 48 hours prior to the meeting, and this will give the reviewer the opportunity to review your paper and then to meet virtually with you to discuss their findings. When we move back to the course homepage, class activities and assignments. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Now, recall that Chapter 1 is broken down into smaller pieces, and we'll be submitting each of those pieces individually. And so I have provided here a rubric, of course, for the PICO question, a rubric for the introduction and background and significance, an introduction, or rather a rubric for the literature review matrix. So there are rubrics listed here for each of the assignments. You will also find the rubric for Chapter 1. The Scholarly Project template. I would encourage you to start out using the Scholarly Project template because it will make your writing more manageable. So we will take more time again to discuss these different elements, to discuss these different assignments as they approach. But please do know that the rubrics are available to you here. I have also included the discussion rubric, as well as the discussion guidelines. You have all been provided the information relative to CITI training. I have emailed out that link to you, but I've also provided it here within Brightspace for a second time. So the link for CITI training can be found by clicking on CITI training, and then the required modules for completion at McKendree University include those that are listed within this Word document here. So if you click on CITI Training Program Modules, you will find the required modules for completion. If we go back home, one of the next boxes that we should see includes one titled Assignments. This is where you will submit each of your assignments. So when you click on Assignments, you will see due dates, For each of those elements of Chapter 1 that we are submitting individually, the PICO question, the background, the literature review matrix, the review of the literature, and Chapter 1. We also have an assignment box for verification of city training, as well as health and safety requirements in the handbook signature form. So we will click on assignments to submit our documents into Brightspace. When we move back home, you will find that for each module there is a box, and each box contains resources. So for this first week, we will be looking at Module 1. When we click on Module 1, you will find the required readings as stated in the calendar. You will find the assignments, as well as whether or not there is an online discussion. So there'll be information here relative to discussion, and the student outcomes that are specific to the content for this particular week. So at the end of this content, at the end of this week, I should be able to, okay? So if you ever get lost on what should be accomplished that week, revisit the student outcomes. Each week, I will post a module overview. Now, on occasion, I will decide maybe to wait and see where the discussion leads us and to provide a recap at the end of the week. But most often, you will find an overview at the beginning of the week for each module. You will find resources relative to the readings. You may find useful websites, etc. So any resources that are of value, you'll find within each module box. In order to reach the discussion, I would recommend you click on Communication and then click on Discussion, and this will lead us to the discussion question. So again, we do not have a discussion question for Module 1, but even on those weeks that there is no discussion, please know that there is a forum available for you to ask questions. So I am still visiting Brightspace, looking to see if there's questions or answers because you're working on your paper, even though you don't have an online discussion that week, right? And so I am always available to you, just please know that. When we go back home, so that covers the material available to you in Brightspace and the resources available to you in Brightspace. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. And again, for much of this, Chapter 1, for statistics, etc., more information will be given to you as we progress through the term. I look forward to seeing you online. Thank you.